Hey y'all, welcome to the Bulletproof Marriage Podcast. As you can tell, I am flying solo this evening. Alan is in bed. He has to go to work around 10 or 11 tonight. So, he left me in charge of doing this today. And it's already started out on a rocky start. I couldn't get this microphone thingy-majigger to work. And, I don't know how to work it. I don't know anything about technology. I'm not any technology savvy person. I don't know anything about it. So I just left it sitting here until it quit ticking. And then I just was like, well, all right, I guess the Lord fixed it or it fixed itself or something because I didn't do nothing to it. And then my daughter came out of her bedroom and made the door creak really loud. So I had to start all over again. So this is take 3 now. And I was just telling about Alan today because he likes to be perfect. And I said, nothing's ever going to be perfect. And here I am trying to be perfect. But anyways, so it's been a couple weeks since we have had a chance to do a podcast. Last week was Easter and we spent time with family. And then the week prior to that, my grandpa, he was sick. And my grandma's been sick too. They both have been not doing well. But thankfully my grandpa's on the mend now and he is doing good. And then my grandma, we're trying to get her back on her feet from having a kidney stone busted up on last Monday, I think it was. Tomorrow she goes to get her stent removed. So she was really excited about that because apparently those things stink. I've never had a kidney stone. I don't want one. But they run in my family. And I think I'm the only one. Between my mom, my grandma, and my sister that doesn't have them. So I guess I'm blessed. Yeah. So just keep her in your prayers tomorrow for that. And I hope you all had a good Easter. And that you got to spend time with your families, and my grandpa was home from the hospital for Easter, so we got to spend that with him, which was great. We're very thankful for that. So today, I don't know, I really don't have an agenda to talk about, but I'll just talk about a few things that really kind of speak to my heart about the meaning behind this podcast. On my end of it, I'm not going to tell Alan's testimony because that is his testimony to tell. But as for me, I will tell my side, and then maybe next week he can get on here and tell his part. But he hasn't been ready to do that yet, so he will do it in his time. I'm not forcing him to do anything that he doesn't want to do, so it'll all come in God's time. And I believe that if I just share the positive sides of the things that I went through and some of the bad things, I mean, it wasn't all easy. I mean, we've been married for 15 years, almost. June will make 15 years, which is really hard to believe because sometimes it doesn't seem like we've been married that long, and then sometimes it seems like we've been married forever. But we got married shortly after dating. We only dated 2 months and got married. As you probably heard in a previous podcast. So we really didn't know each other. We didn't know what set each other off, what ticked each other off, and what helped each other, what made each other mad. We didn't know anything about each other. So we were starting out after just 2 months, and we started out not letting God have the center of everything either. Alan nor I were going to church or Christians at the time when we got married. I grew up in a Christian home, but I had strayed away from that whenever I got older and decided to do my own thing because, when you're a newly 18-year-old, you know everything and you got it all planned out. And, well, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. And most of the time you don't. You're older people that are gone before you and are trying to teach you the right way. They know more than you do. But us being young ones, we just decided that that's what we wanted to do. And Alan was young and I was young. And we both worked at Walmart, which was kind of funny. But then we had our first daughter in 2009, which was a year and a few months after we got married. And so we really didn't have a lot of time to date each other and to spend that time that we needed to spend with each other before we brought another life into the situation. And I don't regret that whatsoever because she changed our life and she made us become closer in reality because we had to be parents to her. And in 2011, we had our second daughter, and she's the wild child. I thought about having them on the podcast this evening, but I'm really skeptical about putting them on YouTube. I don't want them out in the world, which I do have them on my Facebook, but I don't have a lot of people that I don't know on my Facebook. So that is, that's something I haven't been ready to do yet. So I was like, well, I'll just do it myself. Which it probably would have been a train wreck if they had been in here because they would have been fighting over who wanted to do what and who was going to talk when. So I probably saved y'all a little bit of a headache. But anyways, you know, in our marriage, we struggled a lot. And some of it was due to his fault and some of it was due to my fault. But, you know, even though I wasn't following Christ at the time, I still knew who to turn to. And we would often have problems. And, you know, his alternative was to just walk away from the marriage. And I didn't want to do that. Because I came from a home that I didn't have my father in the picture. My father, he left me when I was a month old, and then he tried to walk back in like 10 or 11 years old and see me 2 times and whatnot. But, you know, I didn't want that for my children. I didn't want them to live in a home that had multiple people coming in and out of it. And I always think that there is a solution to a problem. I mean, sometimes you and your spouse may not be able to work it out, but as for me and Alan, there was nothing too bad to where we couldn't fix it. It took quite a while, quite a few years, and it took a lot of him growing up, me growing up. We grew up together, which we did. But it just took some time for that to, you know, and we really had to get in and dig in to know each other better too, because where we got married at a young age, we didn't know each other. We didn't even know what life was about whenever we got married. Alan, he had been living on his own for a little bit, but I had just moved out of my grandparents' house. And so that's whenever we met. And I knew nothing about anything. And he knew a little bit about this and that. But, you know, I think with the Lord, all things are possible. And at times, I would just cry to the Lord because things were rocky. Things were bad. And it wasn't like Alan's never beat me, never done anything like that. But there was a lot of emotional stuff going on. And, you know, he had to grow up from that stuff. And, like I said, it'll all make sense if he tells his part of the testimony. But, you know, as for me, I just kept on keeping on. And, you know, sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to keep on keeping on. And I would just pray to God and ask him what I needed to do, if I needed to walk away or if I needed to stay. And always God came forward, and it was like, be still. And that was always my thing. And whenever he would answer me, that's what I would get, is be still. You know, and I didn't understand it then. I didn't understand it at all. I didn't know why or how or when. But going on 15 years, I couldn't ask for a better marriage. I mean, we still have our fights here and there because I like to nitpick. And he, well, he doesn't nitpick like I do, but he will try to say something or that he knows that'll get me going. And like this recliner that we now have sitting in our living room that I told him he wasn't going to get. Yeah, y'all remember that story from a couple weeks ago? Well, it's sitting in the living room now. He brought it in while I was asleep one day. But anyways, you know, I mean, if God can take a marriage that is falling apart literally at the seams and bring it back together, then he can do it for you too. But I do think that if God's not the center, or, you know, I have seen people try to bring other people into the marriage, like with the third relationship person or whatever you want to call it. And that's not going to work either, because marriage is defined between two people, man and woman. It's not, if God wanted a third person, he would have said, you know, make a third person. But it was him and the man and the woman. That's the only way that your marriage is going to work. Because long term, some things are going to happen, and, you know, you just got to have somewhere to turn to. And I knew where to turn. And I never really pushed that up on Alan. I never really told him anything. But, you know, a few days would go by and we'd brush over it and be fine. But I just knew that I wanted my children in the home with their mother and their father. And I'm very proud to say that 15 years going, we've made that happen. But without God, that wouldn't have been possible. I would have gave up a long time ago. The love that I have for Alan now is way stronger. We've grew a lot. We've gotten a lot older, and I guess wisdom comes with age, they say, anyways. And if you see me looking over, Alan's up. He's getting ready to leave. But and he hears me talking about him, that makes me nervous. Because I don't know. He ain't looking at me, so I must be doing all right. But, you know, even right now, even though we're doing good, you know, it's not always going to be everything you've ever dreamed of or whatever. It's not a fairy tale. Marriage is never going to be a fairy tale. But within time, you get to know each other, and you get stronger as a couple, and it just finds its way. Or that's how it did with us. The Lord helped us, and we found our way through, and I really get nervous being on this camera by myself. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Bye, everybody. Love you.
Love you.
See ya.
Okay. Wednesday. But, yeah, that's a little bit of my testimony on. Sorry, our door's loud too. But that's a little bit of my testimony on our marriage. And like I said, it'll all come together and make sense whenever he tells his portion of the story. And, even though it's not a fairy tale, it is my fairy tale. Because, Alan, he's made me happy. He's been my better half through everything. And though at times it may have been rocky, but I really wouldn't trade it for anything. Because to be where we are now is amazing to have seen where we came from. And it's just amazing what God can do with a broken thing and putting it back together and making it stronger than it was before. We now have we have the two children. The two children. Oh, that was funny. I'm sorry. We have two children, and we're going to church and trying to make the best out of everything. But I guess I will wrap this up because, like I said, I don't like being on camera by myself. It makes me a little bit more nervous than I was with him. I thought being with him was hard. I think this is a little bit harder. But I hope you all enjoy this episode, and sorry if it was kind of spacey. I have ADHD, I guess, and I just kind of zone out here and there. But I just wanted to give you all a little bit of hope that if everything is not going good, that it is fixable. Most things are fixable. And you just have to let God be the center of everything. And don't be letting other things or other people take place of what God has brought together. And so I will see you all next time. Bye.